Which one is it? I'm going to try and change my internet here, guys. But
yeah, that's a good idea.
If one of you guys want to take the intro while I get my.
Yeah, it looks like the market, the futures are up big off of the Trump news yesterday. It seemed like with the plasma treatment, it seemed like that triggered the market going up like it is right now. It's hard to say. He said the whole thing was political, that it hadn't been released yet, you know, typical Trump headline, but it's crazy how he's able to still move markets like this.
Yeah, I think he's trying to force through vaccines early, and you know, so that's what we're dealing with today. But Apple, oh my God, 514.60. It's incredible. Morgan Stanley just raised their price target up to 520. I think they're the highest now on the street.
So does that mean it's due for a sell-off here where they're raising their price target to where it is?
It's been due for a sell-off for 100 points. It reminds me of Tesla.
So maybe we're heading to 1,000.
Well, you know, this is, I think, all triggered by this split. And it's giving people an opportunity that think they didn't have one before.
I think it's the split's a precursor to a sell-off, personally. I think that,
very well be. I've been selling options every day into this.
The writing's on the wall that this is all a prelude to a big sell-off. This whole thing, Apple at 514, is comical to me. Like, I love it. Don't get me wrong, but it's inflated.
Well, you could sell the 500s or the 510s and pick up an extra 40 or 50 points going out to December.
Or I could just sell off a little Apple and buy some back on a dip.
Well, also, you don't have to buy it back on a dip if you sell the options.
I was going to bring up the fact that this morning I was just looking at the historic chart of Apple, Tesla. There's no doubt that when these stocks have gotten to these levels with their RSI specifically, oftentimes they continue the rally for another 3 to 4 weeks. So even though
all the indicators,
and everyone's saying how all the indicators are pointing to these stocks being heavily overbought, and I think everyone in the world is agreeing on that. If you just look at the different times in history when Tesla, Apple, just different companies entered these levels, oftentimes they have another 8 to 10% for any pullback. And then a lot of the times the pullback brought them right back to where they are right now. And then the rally continued.
That's the reason I think selling call options makes sense, because if you're right, you picked up that 10% immediately. And if you're wrong, so what? You got out of the stock 10% higher.
My problem there is that what if you only own, like I was telling you, say I own 150 shares of Apple.
Well, that's what's so interesting about this split, because in 2 days you're going to own 600 shares, right? And that allows you to sell 6 calls.
So that changes things a bit.
Right. Well, that's one of the good things about the split is it's going to allow a lot of people that could not play in the option market to play now.
I mean, aren't the contracts going to completely reflect that, where one contract is going to be equivalent to 6 will be next week? Whereas if Mike did that.
No, based on dollar value. The contracts on the options stay the same. The price of the stock changes. So all of like if you have a 500 call option, you divide it by 4. So it'll be 125.
Gotcha.
So they do it.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking this morning is there's no doubt all people are saying right now is that the stocks are overvalued. They have to sell off. There's going to be a correction, yada, yada, yada. And then I heard someone, and this was kind of interesting, kind of bring up the point that now everybody's saying that the stocks are overbought and therefore we need a correction. So he was almost saying like, you know, we used to look at that as an indicator that there's going to be a sell-off, but now it's so much the narrative that it's like reverse, where everyone's like, oh, because everyone's saying there's going to be a sell-off, there's not going to be a sell-off. And now that seems to be what everyone's saying. So maybe then there is a sell-off.
You could reverse psychology 100 times. The bottom line is whatever ends up happening is going to happen.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, just looking at the movers this morning, I know a couple of weeks ago I said, oh, this might be the beginning of the euphoria stage. That ended up lasting all of about 2 days, and then it just ended up being like a really short-lived rotation, and then tech took over and nothing else was able to go up at all. But maybe today, I was going to say, maybe today is actually the beginning of that, where, I mean, just looking right now, Pinterest obviously got a downgrade this morning from Citigroup, so they're down. But other than them, it's tough to find a name that's not in the green.
I don't understand how that company gets a downgrade after those earnings and what they're showing. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, it could just be Citigroup is trying to sell the stock, and now they're trying to create movement to the downside. I mean, I think we know that behind closed doors, when there's upgrades and downgrades, a lot of the times it's literally just to pad pockets, right?
Yeah, I don't plan for that.
I wouldn't worry about the upgrades and downgrades too much now, because it's just, everything's so out of control with these tech stocks. One interesting thing I read is that you can't get laptops for under $400. They're sold out everywhere. The K through 8 kids that are needing laptops, sales have been through the roof. If you look at Best Buy, even online, you can't buy them.
Well, their earnings are this week, so that'll be interesting.
Well, if they have nothing to sell, it doesn't mean anything. But it's interesting because of all the companies that make those and the components and everything else. It kind of gives another good explanation for everything we've been seeing, because there's so much of the up has been in those names. I mean, maybe that's helping Apple too with the laptops, because people are forced to buy more expensive laptops because they can't get the cheap ones.
That's wild.
Yeah.
It really is. And then I'll bring up, because I know we've talked about them on the show a lot, they have their earnings on Thursday, HPQ.
Yeah, I'm along the line of that with you, Dan. Let's see that thing soar.
Yeah, so I mean,
do they still have a laptop business?
I mean, it's more on the printing side, but they do still have a laptop business, and
that'll be the surprise upside in the stock.
Well, there were reports that came a few weeks ago that implied that the earnings were going to be really good, and the stock's been trending up. I mean, we got in at 16 and change. It went over 19 briefly. Right now, it's at 18 and a half, and the CEO bought a bunch of stock about 2.5 months ago. It was his first time ever doing it. He got the stock at around 16 and change. They obviously turned down the takeover offer from Xerox at 24 per share. That was before the pandemic. So I don't really know how much you can weigh that into what's going on. But I like the fact that the CEO bought a lot of stock for the first time ever. They turned a takeover bid way higher than where they're at right now. Their PE is only 9. They have a healthy dividend. I mean, this seems like one of the hidden gem value plays that are actually also performing. So if they do have good earnings, maybe this stock has a real big pop in it, just due to, it seems like one of those names that had we never brought them up on their show or never saw that the CEO bought stock, it'd be one of those names you randomly see on CNBC up 25% one morning. You're like, wait, HPQ, like the old printing company? That's crazy. So I'm hoping we're on the right side of that.
We also have JM Smucker, SJM, which I know we've brought up on this show before, which I'm interested to see. I've been in and out of that stock, made some good money on it. They're, you would think throughout this pandemic, they've been in a good spot in the driver's seat with their products. And I'm curious to see how they report. I think it's today or tomorrow.
Mike, are they the snack company?
SJM, JM Smucker, jelly, peanut butter.
Yeah. I mean, look, they were
Great
definitely they were a popular story a few months ago. That's for sure.
Yeah, and they've kind of flown under the radar. So, that could be an interesting thing to keep. So them and Best Buy both also, and I know you mentioned HPQ. Those are what are on our radar this week. Best Buy will definitely be interesting.
And I mean, I'll tell you what my radar today. I know this sounds just dumb to even say, but at the end of the day, if Apple and Tesla are going to continue to lead this market as far as day trades go, I mean, until it stops, who's to say these stocks aren't going to go up another 10%? They might even see half of that today alone. I mean, Apple, it's really unbelievable when you just look at pre-market what's going on with these two companies.
I should have thrown everything I own into Apple and Penn back in March.
Maybe today's the day they'll see some sort of midday reversal. Who knows? But
could have said that Friday, Thursday, Wednesday.
Yeah, and maybe it continues for another couple of weeks where it's just up massive every day. Not another couple of weeks, but I could see, and again, I could see either side, but it wouldn't shock me if Apple and Tesla each have another 8 to 10% in them. And
I think we got to talk about these bank stocks because we're probably going to look back at this as the best time to get in bank stocks in a while. Like if we're actually heading into a bull market again, that has to happen anyway. I'm starting to think I hate bank stocks. I've never liked owning them, but I'm having a hard time seeing JPM here at 97 and asking myself, are we going to look back here and be like, are you shitting me? How do we not get on that then?
You know, if the vaccine is going to come out early, this is going to be a beneficiary.
That's right. We can't bet against science. Kramer always says that, and I there's nothing he says that I agree more with. It's science.
At the end of the day, the smart money and the money in Wall Street in general, they're not dumb. And at the end of the day, there was a lot of rallies going on for months off of vaccine and treatment headline. And obviously today, the market's up huge. It looks like it's going to be up huge. And I'm not saying that's not because of the plasma treatment headline that Trump had yesterday. But at the same time, I think the three of us could agree, and to me, the market probably knows this too, that if there's some sort of rushed vaccine, Bob, you're not taking it. I'm not taking it. Mike, you're not taking it. And I think there's a lot of people.
Well, why not? What do you mean I'm not taking it? Who
I don't know. Are you? Would you take Would you take a vaccine if it came out in the next 6 months?
We were out to dinner with a couple the other night, and they're 10 years older than us. And they volunteered to be in stage 3.
Really?
Yeah, I think you'll see a lot of people jumping at the bits wanting to resume life. And you got to keep in mind with the banks, regardless of the what ifs of who's taking it or who's not, it's the fact that it's there. And it's a catalyst to them going up. So that's where I'm starting to just think here with whatever's happening with the vaccine. Either we're not going to need a vaccine or one's going to come out. Either way, that's a positive for the banks.
Yeah, but I almost look at it, and I mean, everything you're saying is dead on, but I almost look at it like the market had somewhat of a rebound aside from technology, and rebound factored in somewhat of the population going back to a normal lifestyle, which is exactly what's happened. And now we're at this interesting point where there's either going to be a vaccine or there's going to be better treatment. And then the question we have to ask ourselves, which I'm sure the broader market's asking themselves, is that going to actually change the habits even more so than what's already changed? Like, is there now going to be a whole other group of people that are like, oh, I'm going to take this vaccine and I'm going to feel confident to go back to my lifestyle? And Dad, that's why I brought up you and Mom, because I feel like you guys are a good example of a portion of the population that's still being super cautious because of everything. And there's going to be something really legitimate that's going to have to change your behavior on that. And despite what you're saying right now, I don't think you and Mom would be too quick to take a vaccine that got rushed, where you might have some of your close doctor friends being like, hey, why don't you give this some time because this was rushed? And to me,
that's true. But I also think on the other side of that, for getting the vaccine, is as more and more people fly and not get sick from flying, the airlines have to do a better job of saying how safe it is to fly.
Yeah, seriously.
I think that's going to be something that can all of a sudden change dramatically if all of a sudden those numbers of people that fly go up and up. And I'm hearing more and more people that are flying saying it's actually better than ever.
That's what I said, and I stand by that. I thought it felt really safe to fly.
I agree. I have no problem with the issue of flying. My whole thing with that is just wearing a mask.
And Travis agrees. I heard that in the background.
Yeah. But let me ask you, Dad, if there was a reason that the market was rallying, let's say Trump didn't come on and talk about a plasma treatment, where if you look at the reports, there were literally a lot of medical professionals that worked for that company and came out and said that they will resign if they go through with bringing that to the public because it's just not ready. So at the end of the day, is the market just blind and being dumb, or is there another reason? And even if there was no special press conference yesterday in the afternoon, this would be happening anyway. And if so, is it just a technical rally at this point and has nothing to do with anything?
I think it has little to do with Trump's announcement. I think you could put it on a lot of things, but it's always hard to pinpoint why this market's up. But Apple is still a big part of the Dow, and look how much it's up today. And Apple is not really benefiting off of plasma.
Yeah, no, it's true. But I mean, you could say a lot of companies seem to be up today that have not been up lately. That just seems like at the moment. I mean, I will say my watch right now is pretty tech heavy, so I don't know what a lot of the names are doing. But J.P. Morgan is up over $1. So
yeah, which is nothing though. I mean, this stock up $1, it could fade in the first 30 seconds of the market. That's the problem.
That'll be what's interesting to see is, will the market fade today, or is this rally gonna have some legs to it?
I want to see JPM and Boeing start showing some next signs of life. That's when I'm in the mode of this thing is soaring. Like, those are the types of laggards that we need to see.
Well, the airlines are all very strong today, at least to start out. So we'll see if they get legs, and they get help from the Robinhood gang, right?
But Dad, you look at Boeing now, if you're not in Boeing as a stock for the long run, is this a good opportunity going into a week like this?
I think it is. I think it's okay here.
Because I've been out of that since 185. I've been looking for an entry point back in.
I think you buy it every 5 points down, average in.
So then I should wait then.
Well, so the worst case scenario is you only have a 20% position if you started right here.
See, for you to say that,
it goes straight up. What's up?
So you think that's going down more?
Well, I think you could buy it both ways. You could buy it up 5 points and down 5 points.
That doesn't sound too great to me.
I mean, Mike, it's kind of made its way back and forth between 169 and 185
and I got out at 185. That's why I like not being involved in dead money.
No, I know. Now it's 169.
Then wait till it's a momentum play, and it's far from that.
I'm trying to just keep winning every day, guys. Like the Zillow timing I've been doing. I need to just keep that train going where there's 0 losses.
There's another.
Yeah, that's hard to do.
Well, hey, Dad.
By the way, the crazy stock we talked about a couple of weeks ago, VUZI, had a really positive story.
Screw those guys. I don't own that.
Down 2%.
Yeah, but it moved. Look at Friday's chart on that and look at the volume. Japan came in with an order. Supposedly they have glasses that when you're in a room, it tells you if there's too many people in the room.
Wow.
And doctors, it could translate people in the ER that don't speak the language.
Yeah.
They got a lot of crazy stuff, this company.
This could be a company that just goes through the absolute moon.
I
saw that. Yeah, I saw that it got up to basically 5. What, like 2.5? No, like a month ago.
Yeah, that's when we first looked at it.
That'd be an interesting. Like, to me, this is a stock that I'd probably buy if it broke through that level again.
Well, something to keep an eye on. I'm not saying buy it here because it's up about 60 cents from Friday. But
here's a headline I saw this morning. Let me know if this is something that could cause concern at some point. Defaults in China's U.S. $4.1 trillion corporate bond market could hit record high this year as recovery remains fragile.
They've been talking about defaults in China for, I feel like, a decade. But yeah, it keeps getting worse and worse.
I mean, they have how many ghost cities there? Like that's never talked about lately. Like if there was any red flags in China on another level, I feel like we'd be hearing more about that.
Well, the big thing, and China has even admitted this, they've had floods in the last couple of weeks that they say is as bad as the COVID virus as far as the effect on the country.
And you wonder why I think that country's fallen apart. That's like an afterthought.
I mean, you're not even hearing about it, but it's all over the news in China.
That country is a mess. I'm telling you, like internally, a mess.
You could say a similar thing about the fires in California. California is a top 10 economy in the world. If you just look at it as its own state.
I would not live in that state. We touched on that Friday, literally. Like it's literally a bad windstorm away from that whole state being engulfed. I don't know what people are thinking if they're getting into thinking about buying property in California. You better have next level insurance on that thing.
Look, and the other big tragedy in the world are these beetles eating up trees left and right throughout Canada. It's caused the price of lumber to double. And it's, what's going to happen to new construction when lumber costs twice as much? It's another factor in that housing bubble.
The aliens are just having us humans falling apart here. Slowly but surely.
So are you guys doing anything today? I mean, Dad, I know you're going to keep selling calls, which makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm trying to sell some Microsoft calls also. I
don't like that. I think Microsoft has some room to run.
Yeah, it may. It may.
And that's kind of what everyone keeps talking about is there going to be some sort of mild rotation where instead of Apple and Tesla being the leaders every day, you're going to see these other huge cap names start to play catch up like Google, Microsoft.
Yeah,
Google definitely.
Google made a new high last week, and there's been a lot of call buying in that name. And
that's going higher, Google.
It acts really, it's a great chart for momentum players.
That's why I got into it recently.
And two other names, which we've talked about also, has had a lot of call buying.
Which one?
Booking.com.
I actually just got out of that.
That'll be up today because of the airlines, right?
One thing I want to ask you guys, we haven't talked about AIG in a long time. They've kind of fallen off a cliff of just like news. I'm wondering if that's I was doing a little homework on them this weekend. Is there a play there?
Well, while Dad looks that up, let me just say, while you guys are talking about stocks at all-time highs, two other stocks that I have my name on this week that just recently made it to all-time highs that I think could be interesting are Adobe and Salesforce. Because those are stocks that were stuck in this range for a couple months and just broke through and got to all-time highs. And if you look at what some other companies have done when they've hit all-time highs and they've actually like exploded through them, the stocks might have a lot of momentum behind them. So
somebody had a sell recommendation on Salesforce on Friday.
Yeah, I saw that.
It was, AIG. It looks like a chart that needs to get support right here, or it could start heading towards the lows.
It just seems like it's. At what point is this a great value? It's just. It's hard to ignore, really. I mean, look at this chart.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on inside AIG right now. Insurance business in general has kind of been horrible from the stock's point of view, right?
That's what I'm getting at, though, and it's not like insurance is going anywhere. People all need it for whatever reason it is. It depends on the insurance, but what these guys aren't going under. We already saw they were too big to fail 12 years ago.
Maybe it's acting poorly because of the fires. It could be acting poorly because of hurricane.
But is that a good opportunity then?
Usually it is because they get to raise rates.
Exactly. That's what I was looking at this weekend.
That's not the only insurance they're in. They have other ends of their business.
I just think that whole sector has been just wiped off the map, and it's kind of, even when you think of like older people with life insurance, there's a few plays in the arena that we've never really dove into that could be appealing.
Yeah, maybe the actuarial tables have been thrown out of whack because of COVID. Although I doubt it.
you got to also just, when you look at the insurance name, ask yourself, like, is going to be a point, I'm sure there will eventually, when value plays in general become sexy again. Because right now, like, no one wants anything to do with anything that's not some sort of high fly tech stock that's shown its value in the pandemic. So that really needs to change entirely for these other sectors to start gaining momentum. Maybe that starts to happen on a day like today, but to
Look,
me,
people that play value stocks in general buy them when everyone's selling them.
Yeah, like the stock TRUP, Trump without the M. That's something interesting.
What is that?
That's Trupanian.
Well, that looks like it's off to the races.
I know.
What do they do?
They are a pet insurance company.
Well, that's a whole different thing. People are crazy about their pets.
Exactly.
They rather do health insurance for their pets than
Better
insurance on
I'll
themselves.
say though, as a pet owner, it doesn't make any sense. I don't think I would ever get
Yeah, that's because they're smart. Most people don't think like that. They're just like, oh yeah, I need to get this. It's like getting that insurance on a flight in case, you know, your family's getting paid off if it crashes. What kind of sucker bet is that? That's a lose-lose any way you spin it.
I agree with you, but I guess if people are doing it, right?
Well, my whole attitude there, if someone dies in a plane crash or close to it, you're collecting their insurance. How pumped are you? Unless you hated the person, that's kind of, I don't know.
So, Dad, let me ask you something, because this is obviously a hard question to answer, but everyone right now, all they talk about is how the market's overvalued, it's due for some massive correction. The RSI levels are creeping at these levels that aren't sustainable. What if there's any sort of case for this rally to continue for another 10, 15, 20, 30% with just small hiccups along the way? What is that case? Because no one seems to really think it.
The case is that growth is in front of us. Maybe, the election will be over. We won't have to deal with this anymore. It's been a burden on the country, just the whole process and the hatred and everything else. So, I mean, you can make a case both for Biden helping the market from a mental point of view, and you can make a case for Trump because of the tax issues for the market going forward. So I think you can make positive cases.
Meaning it might be a wash either way. Like it might not be that.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's going to be, if Biden wins, and we spoke about this before, there are companies that'll do very well, especially in the eco. Anything related to green is going to do very well in the next 4 years.
Including marijuana stocks.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there's a very good chance the federal government will make marijuana legal. So yeah, I mean, you could find plenty of companies that'll benefit from Trump losing, and maybe people will feel trade will get easier in an odd way. Even though Biden's been talking tough on China, I don't know if that'll actually play through. But, there are cases you can make.
Good. Well, I feel like this was a good discussion to end it. Mike, are you going to make any plays in the market today?
I don't have anything. I'm looking at maybe adding to my NLOC position, that one Kramer owns that I jumped on that's kind of shit the bed. It seems like it's a great value to add on.
And where are you playing golf today, Dan?
Well, I'm at Pinehurst right now.
That's a nice course.
Yeah, I only live about 3.5, 4 hours from here. Travis told me a couple days ago he was going to drive down yesterday because he was in Philly. So I
Dan,
drove up.
we'll be having our hangout with you on the golf cart.
No, I don't know if I'm playing golf today. I'm going to be here for the hangout, and I'll be here for the podcast. Our
podcast is tomorrow this week, remember?
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
We might be playing golf this afternoon. We'll see.
There you go.
And today,
tomorrow.
I'm gonna maybe make some day trades. I'll tell you the 3 stocks I'm gonna be watching are Apple, Alibaba, and Tesla, and I'm gonna wait and maybe try and pick up all 3 on a reload for day trades. I mean, again, I think these stocks are all insanely overvalued, but I'm not gonna try and step in front of a moving train. If they want to go higher, I'm gonna ride it, and I'll have really, really tight stop limits in and try some money.
All right. Apple's already off $2 from the high, but
yeah, I was gonna say, I think, yeah, it wouldn't shock me if the market does not hold this rally today, but that probably means it'll be a blowout rally, since I feel like it's not going to be, because it's impossible to ever.
For another day trader, watch Rocket. That thing has been straight to the RKT.
What's the symbol, Dad?
RKT.
That's the Rocket Mortgage Company, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, last week I kept hearing about them, and another 8.5% pre-market, insane. But yeah, people that are listening to this, you got to be careful buying a stock that's up 8% pre-market that's already been on a massive tear, because it could easily not be up 8% in about an hour. So we'll end at that. I just